Hello, my name is Brad Turner, owner of the website poolhallbusinessplan.com, and in this video I'm going to be taking you through a sales forecast projection worksheet so you can build different scenarios based on your concept as it relates to pool table, alcohol, and food revenues. Again, the purpose of this is so that you can build the cornerstone of your financial plan for your pool hall business plan. You're going to need a sales forecast that's realistic, takes into account your own assumptions about your design, and that can be defended when you go to look for funding, whether that's from friends, family, or a bank. So let's jump into it. I'll talk about this concept of low-end, medium, and high-end scenarios in just a second. But let's take a look at the spreadsheet here. So first thing, the way I've designed this is allow you to do a number of different what-if scenarios. So let's take a look at it, and I'll share with you, how I used it in my thought process when I was developing my business plan for the Hub Billiard Club. So in my plan, the focus was on billiards with obviously a full-service bar, but a very limited menu. We used just a microwave and convection oven with simple pub grub like wings and chicken tenders and fries, that sort of thing. So we're not a full-service restaurant or kitchen at the Hub. So my plan was more around the pool and alcohol sales. So with that, we've got 20 tables. You can put in any number here that you want based on your design elements. Table revenue. I'm working on $7 per hour of table revenue. Obviously that's going to be more with more people, but for the purpose of this sales forecast, I'm being a little conservative and assuming that for every hour that the tables are used, they're generating $7 in pool. Likewise, for every hour the table is used, I'm assuming $10 in beverage and then $3 in food. Again, if you have a full service restaurant where you're going to be offering a more extensive and maybe higher end menu, then obviously you can start to play with this number as well. Okay, but based on that, the way I broke it down then was by week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You can see that there. And then I broke each day into 3 different day parts. So the daytime utilization is from noon to 8. Let me back up. The plan is to have the store open from noon to roughly 3 a.m. Monday through Friday. Okay, so for the first 8 hours of the day, we call that our daytime day block. And the concept there is that I'll be 10% utilized. So out of 20 tables, I'll have 10% of them utilized every hour. Okay, take a look at the formula here, and you see that when I click on that, it's 8 hours times the revenue per pool table times the number of pool tables times the utilization. So I've got 8 tables that are generating $7 per hour, and I'm doing that across 20 tables, and then multiplying that by 10%. So to get the utilization, I've used the same formula for beverages and the same formula for food. Okay, and then what that tells me is that on a Monday in that day part, if I've got 10% utilization of my tables on Monday between noon and 8 p.m., I'm generating this kind of money: $112 in table revenues, $160 in beverage, and $48 in food. Then I make an assumption that on Monday nights, I'm going to have higher utilization. So I'm using 3/4 of my tables between 8 p.m. and 11, and that's driving this number here. And then late night, which is 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., the utilization drops down as people head home, and you've just got sort of the late night crowd. Okay, now let me take this down a little bit, say to 50%. And as you see, what ultimately then happens is I'm projecting on Mondays to do just over $1,000 in sales. When I take a look at that across the week, I then have weekly sales of $10,000, monthly sales of $40,000, 489 for 489,000 for the year, which is simply this number times 12. And then when you start to look at forecasting out your year 2 and year 3 sales, I simply make an assumption on growth. So in year 2, I'm saying that I'm going to grow the business by 10%, which is reflected by the 1.1 multiplier here. And then year 2, year 3, I'm taking year 2 sales, and again multiplying that by 1.1 to represent 10% growth year over year from years 2 to 3. Okay, so that's basically it. That gives you a sense of the spreadsheet. You can work out averages across a week, but the real important thing coming out of that is you've got a sense of what your weekly, monthly, and yearly first year sales are. So now you can start to play with scenarios. Well, what happens if I'm a little aggressive here, right? Maybe I'm not full 10% of the time, all the time, right? You want to be a little more conservative in your numbers. Well, you can do that and say, okay, well, what happens if during the day I'm only 5% full? What if, half the time nobody's even in there, right? And then on Saturday and Sunday, I'll keep it at 15% utilization. What does that do? Well, it takes you from 40,000 down to about 38,000, right? What if I can turn around and build up more leagues? So for instance, on Wednesday, I'm saying that I'm going to be fully utilized during the peak hours because I've got a Wednesday night league. Well, what happens if I can build out a second league on Tuesday nights as well? How does that affect the numbers? And you see that it's all automated here and is updated accordingly, right? You can also then start to play with some seasonality, right? So that, okay, for January, February, in my neck of the woods here on Long Island, the winter is our peak time, right? So if I wanted to get some monthly sales forecasts for, say, keep an eye on this number, the 40,000. So during winter, this might be an example of a typical week in the middle of January. Well, you know what? We tend to get much better utilization, more customers. So I can start to play with these numbers here and say, okay, well, what if I increase, the number of customers at certain times? And I'm just randomly picking some times here to illustrate higher utilization on the weekends and that sort of thing. Well, then you see I've gone from 40 to 45,000, right? So my argument might be that this is typical for a busy season, and then in the summertime when things are a little slower, right? Our leagues take a break. People are out. I'm near a beach. We're on the coast, so we're near a beach town, so things start to slow down in the summers. People are outside enjoying the weather. So if I want to start playing with scenarios with lower utilization on Friday or Saturday nights, what impact does that have on my business? So then you can start to create specific scenarios for specific times of the year. Again, the idea is to give yourself a very realistic concept of what you think you can do in terms of revenues based on the research you've done on what you can charge for rates, what you think you can get for beverage, and how fancy your kitchen's going to be. Great example is, okay, I'm going to put in a full kitchen, so I think my average bill is going to be closer to $7. Well, you can see very quickly that small changes in your average revenue can have big impacts on your sales. So again, that's all about doing sales forecasts. You can then save this and call it your low end scenario. You can then run the same spreadsheet again, call it your mid-range scenario, and then your high end. And I would encourage you to do that for your business plan so that you can talk to people intelligently and say, if I'm really projecting low end, real conservative, I think it's going to be 30,000 a month. If I get real aggressive and everything fires on all cylinders, I think I can do 50,000 on my high end, And if I want to choose a sort of a mid-range scenario, I can do that there. And again, it just demonstrates to investors that you've thought things out and that you can justify where you think the financials are coming from. And again, the sales forecast is the foundation, because from that you're going to generate your payroll, your cost, your break-even analysis, and ultimately your profit and loss statements. Hey, I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, drop us a line at poolhallbusinessplan.com, and you can get all our contact information there. Thanks very much.